welcome to another episode of Writing Wednesday. I'm Coach Brenda Hare, and today we are going to be talking about bookstores and what you should know about bookstores and whether that is really the pinnacle of author success or not. So, I am joining you today. I was gone last week. I'm here today sick, so bear with me. I'm getting over some, I guess, a summer cold. And so I sound a little underwater, but I'm here nonetheless. Okay, so, and I'm also here wearing my Bound Books Lindale, Texas, of supporting one of my local bookstores, who I must say I adore. I adore the bookstore. It's downtown. It's a great location in Lindale, Texas. It's just a really cozy vibe. They've got some great books, they great book accessories, all the things. And so here's what I want to talk about bookstores, right? Because you'll hear authors say, well, I can't get into a bookstore. I can't get my book into a bookstore. And that can be an issue sometimes. And so, how do we get our books into bookstores? Well, there's a couple different ways. And if you're joining me today, let me know if you have a book and you drop the link. Let me know if you have a book and say, I want to get into bookstores. Let's talk about this. So, first of all, let's talk about the difference between you selling a book directly to your reader and you selling through a bookstore. So, when you sell through a bookstore, they become the middleman, right? The customer is working directly with the bookstore and they're purchasing the book from them. And so, obviously, there's going to be a fee for that. And that's the difference usually between the wholesale retail price. And so, a lot of times people will freak out on Amazon when they see Amazon changing the retail price of their book, but the list price is never going to change of your book. Whatever you set your price at is never going to change. The same in a public bookstore. If you sell your book retail for, let's just say, $16.99, and that's how you've listed it through your distribution channels, that is the list price of your book. But bookstores can then mark it down, and their margin is what the difference is what they're making, right? So for instance, they're buying it at a wholesale discount and then they're making the difference. So if they buy it, most bookstores buy books for around 35%, 45% sometimes, but around 35% is what they will pay. 35, they want that 35% discount. So they're paying you, let's just do 60%. They'll buy the book at 60% of the cost. And then they have that 40% margin to play with. So they can go up and down in their prices as much as they want, right? Within that 40% and still make a profit. And so you're getting your 60%, what they paid for it. That's what you're getting. Now, if you do different things with different bookstores, it works out differently. And when I say different things but different bookstores, I mean some bookstores do consignments. Some do, you can do an author event where you're collecting the money directly, which most bookstores don't do that. They like you to ring up at the counter, right? So people are buying more than one thing when they're there. But sometimes they will do that. It depends on the bookstore. Excuse me, it depends on the retail venue as a whole. But let's say you want to get into a big name bookstore. Hey, Kim, welcome. Kim says, I have a book. I'd love to. Yes, I do think we have a lot of smaller bookstores here. Yes, go with the smaller bookstores if you can. I'd have to check it out to be sure, though. Guessing it's probably harder to get into like Barnes & Noble. Okay, it's actually not that hard at all to get into Barnes & Noble. The thing about Barnes & Noble is they pretty much want you to bring your audience. They don't do a whole lot of promotion for you as the author. This was what I kind of considered the pinnacle of my success when I first published. I was like, I can't wait to be, standing in Barnes and Noble and signing books. And that was probably the most disappointing moment I ever had as an author. And the most costly, to be honest, one of the most costly, because they messed up and ordered too many of my books. They ordered directly through a distributor. So how you get into Barnes and Noble is you have to be published with a distributor that they can order books directly, and those books have to be returnable. Okay, they want to be able to make sure that they can return the books. Well, when they do that, depending on how you set up your returns on the distribution side, sometimes it costs you the money, right? Those books are returned. What was paid to you is going to be deducted from you, right? Because it's been returned. And sometimes the shipping cost or whatever is also on you. So it can be kind of costly. Well, in the beginning, I didn't fully understand that. And I went to Barnes& and Nobles. They had ordered my books, but they hadn't come in yet. And so they panicked and ordered another round of my books. So now they had too many copies for me to sell at my book signing, and they returned a big batch of them. And so that to me hurt me as an author, and it cost me money, and it really kind of made me angry that they didn't want to have another event or do something else to sell those books. They just sent them back. Like, I'm their local, this was my local Barnes& and Noble, and so um, hopefully it's under new management by now. I don't know. But at the time, when I went in, it's real easy. Just go in, let them know you're a local author and you want to do a book signing, and take your book with you as long as it's available for them to order through a distribution channel like Ingram Spark. They cannot order from KDP. So you're taking your book in, you're showing them, they can scan the back, they know that they can get it, it's set as returnable already, so they're good to go. Then you'll pick a date. Usually there's an events manager, or sometimes it's the store manager, sometimes they have an events manager. And you just set up the book signings. Super simple. But you need to ask questions. Are they going to be promoting it? What are they going to do to promote it? Some Barnes and Nobles, and I've seen some across the country that do a fantastic job with their authors. They print posters and they do all this stuff, and it's wonderful. My store did not do that. I had to do all the promotion myself. When I got there, they acted like I was inconveniencing them. They said, like, your table's over there, and I wasn't greeted well. Like, I had to go search down someone to say I'm here, and I had to go search down to someone to say I'm leaving. Like, it was really awkward. There was no real love and support. You would think that there would be a little bit better relationship there. Because of that, I really haven't been back to set up a new relationship with Barnes and Noble. I don't even know if it's the same management. But that's the point of this talk today, is to talk to you about setting up good bookstore owner relationships, right? Or good store manager relationships. And so I have done that with a local bookstore, Bound Books. I'm receiving checks on a regular basis, which is really nice, or actually just deposits, right? Because they do a Venmo auto deposit. And so it's really nice to have that coming in already. Here's Jovi in case you missed her. She's missed you guys. Um, and so having that good relationship, but if you go into your Barnes Noble, let's say you don't have a relationship at all with that manager, you go in, you let them know you're a local author, you're interested in doing a book signing. They scan your book, they're like, yes, we can get it, it's returnable, great. They're going to order the books directly, they're going to have them on site. They know what to do as far as how many to order and all that. They usually order 10 to 20, depending, right? Depending on what they're wanting to do. Just know that if you don't sell all those, they may return them, and that may come back on you, right? So just know that that may happen. But then ask them, like, are you doing any promotions? Can I do social promotions? Would you, if I provided you social promotions, would you do it? If they have a local page, right? A lot of Barnes & Noble, because it's corporate, they can't do certain things. And so just talk to them, ask them, can I bring in signage? Can I bring in whatever? And then you need to promote your event. You need to create a Facebook event. You need to go out and promote it just like you would any other event. And, I would ask them, can I tag you in it? Can I, all of these kind of things. But ultimately, you're doing the work. And so while it seems like it may be this pinnacle because you're in Barnes & Noble, you're doing all the work and they're getting a big old chunk of your money, right? Because they're purchasing your books, and taking that big chunk of money, you're making the, small profit back on that. So know that going forward. With any bookstore, they're going to take a cut. It's just a matter of how much. Right. And so if you can work with a local bookstore and they do consignment, or they do maybe a smaller percentage, that's great. Some local bookstores will also buy from Ingram Spark if they, have that relationship set up, or some will buy directly from you. I am fortunate that, like, this particular bookstore, they do a little bit of both, right? So they get them from me for the most part, but at one point they needed more, and so they ordered more. They had somebody come in and they needed, they were doing the Bible study and they needed some, and this is before I had the better relationship, right? I had my books in there, they knew of me, but I hadn't spent any real time over there. And so they went ahead and ordered through Ingram Spark. Was I upset? No, of course not. I'm selling books and people are doing my Bible study. I'm ecstatic, right? But they had an anniversary recently and I went to their event. I made a point to go to their event, and spend some time over there and talk with them a little bit. And because of that, hopefully the next time they will order directly through me, right? Because I have books on hand and I'm close and I can bring them in. And I was able that day to sign books in store where people were purchasing that day. So you never know what's going to happen when you build a relationship, but you want to start building it. So if you have some of those local smaller bookstores, this is a great place to start because they see the value in dual working with you and having you promote your event, and they see the value and they want that partnership a little bit more. Maybe if they don't see the value, maybe they haven't done that. Maybe they're a brand new bookstore and they haven't really done that. You can introduce them to that value, right? Some of the smallest bookstores I've worked with have been the best promoters, and I've made the most royalties back at those events. There was one in San Antonio. Shout out to Dead Tree Books in San Antonio, Texas. They were on my first book tour. In fact, I should make another stop over there, you guys. It's been a while since I've been there. They were on my first book tour and did a fantastic job. They printed out bookmarks to promote me coming weeks ahead of time. I was ecstatic when I realized what they were doing for me. It was an amazing event. Now, the bookstore is a used bookstore, and so people are like, "What? You went into a used bookstore?" Yes, I did, but I did not sell my book at used prices. They do promote new authors, and so it's an author event. And so people knew coming in that it was full price book, it wasn't going to be a used bookstore price, and that was okay. And so don't be afraid to go into used bookstores and do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure that the bigger used bookstore, which I can't think of the name off the top of my head right this minute, is they offer that as well. What is it called? I can't think of it off the top of my head. The big used bookstore. It's like the Barnes and Noble for used books. Can't think of it. Anyway, if you don't be afraid to go into there. They do author events for new releases and will sell your book at full price, at full list price. So knowing that, getting into these bookstores are a few different ways. One is they can order from the distributor directly, which you need to be set up with return options through Ingram Spark for that. If you only have your book published through KDP, which some authors only want to use KDP, and that's fine, you can order books yourself and have them on hand. That's what we call author copies. Have them on hand, and then you can work consignments with some of these stores, or sometimes they don't want to do consignments. Sometimes they just want to buy them outright from you. That way they can do whatever they want with them. So you would just sell them at wholesale price to the bookstore. Now, how you set that price, you may ask them what they normally do. If they're like, well, whatever you do, then you need to determine. You take the print cost of your book in mind, and then give yourself a profit. Usually it's at least double the print price, right? You want to make at least that much back. But you determine that. Figure out what it is for you. Think about if you were selling directly to, if you were going through Barnes & Noble or one of those other bookstores, they would be taking X amount from you. And so do you want to give that same amount to this bookstore, and you're cutting out that middleman of them going through the distributor and all that. So just think about it, and you set that up with them. So there's consignment, there's them buying directly from you, there's them buying it from the distributor directly. And so know that, sorry, the dog was getting into something she's not supposed to. So know that you have options, right? Because people will be like, well, I don't know how to get my book into these bookstores. Is it worth it to get it into these bookstores? Yes, it's worth it. I just got paid yesterday. An unexpected check in my box. Like, I get an email and says you've been paid, and it's really nice when you get those, because I didn't have to do anything, right? Like, I did take books over there, and whenever I'm in the area, I'll call and ask her, do you need me to bring anything else? Because I want to keep her stocked, right? But she's dropping me a check, and it's really nice to get those unexpected checks. Now, don't forget you have to pay taxes on all that money, so be sure to keep track of it. You don't have to pay the sales tax, though, because they did that for you, right? So you're only having to pay income tax on that money. So keep track of that for income tax purposes, but know that when you're selling through a bookstore, they've taken care of all of that for you. So how do you start these relationships with these smaller bookstores? Well, and especially if you've never written a book, or maybe you just started writing. Like for Kim, for instance, she has her first book out. Kim, if I was you, I'd take that first book into some of these bookstores and start the discussions. When you start the discussions, if it's a small bookstore that has some t-shirts, go ahead and make a purchase. support them, especially if you start the relationship with them and you like them, right? If it's the bookstore's your vibe, if it's something that you would promote, go ahead and buy their t-shirt. Buy something from them that you can, use, a book bag or something like that. Here's why. First, you want to support that local bookstore. I mean, obviously, right? We want to support them just like they're supporting us. But secondly, if I'm wearing this out in public, people are going to think a couple different thoughts about me, right? They're going to think, oh, she really loves bookstores. Or sometimes they may think, oh, she works at that bookstore. Um, or maybe they're just going to ask, right? So do you work there? What's with the t-shirt? What is Bound Books, right? And so it opens that door for conversation. So now I'm not only supporting the bookstore, I can talk about the bookstore, but I can also talk about why I'm connected with this bookstore. So I could say, oh yeah, this local bookstore in Lindale, Texas, they carry my books. I'm a 10-time published author, and they carry all 10 of my books. That's a easy door opener, right? Just wearing the t-shirt. And now I've supported the bookstore by buying the shirt, all of the things. And so go into the bookstores, see if they're your vibe. If they are, take your book in, start the conversation. I'm a published author, new released book. I would love for you to carry my book locally. I would love to do an event with you if that's something that you're open to. I love doing author talks about my book. That's a whole nother conversation, but author talks, we've said it before, we'll say it again, are always better than just book signings. Author talks. So I'd love to do an author talk if that's something that you're open to. Um, Start that conversation with them. See what it's like. Maybe they are like, well, we don't really support local authors. Mm, Probably not going to hear that, hopefully, from local bookstores. But here's the thing, sometimes they don't. And this is why they don't. Because some local authors don't get professionally published, some don't get professionally edited, they have ugly book covers. Like, if they're not doing it right, why would the bookstore want to promote them, right? So, as with Kim, your book is beautiful. Take your book in there, show them your beautiful book, and here's my beautiful book. I just released my indie release, and I would love to have it carried in your store. Is there, how do we work together to make that happen? Can I do book signings? Can I, start the conversation with them? Most of them, once they see your product is good, they're going to want to do something with you. And when they see that, oh, wait, she does know what she's doing, she has a beautiful book, it's not, it doesn't scream and reek of, I don't know what I'm doing, self-published author. It's actually professional and it looks great and it's a great book. You've got reviews, all of the things, right? They're going to want to work with you. And so take that in there, show them the book, and then just start the conversation. Get some gear if they have it. Maybe they have a mug with their name on it or whatever. You can start promoting them and vice versa. It's also a great reminder that your books are in that bookstore and to talk about them every now and then, to promote them every now and then. Do I shout out this bookstore every time I'm, thinking about it? Yes, when I'm thinking about it. Am I always thinking about it? No. It's kind of one of those out of sight, out of mind, right? It's not even in my little town. I live in a small town outside of a small town, right? And so these little small towns are all sprinkled around. And this is just one of the bookstores. Um, I plan on making my way to some of the other ones when I have time, and to do this with other bookstores. But this one is just real convenient for me, and it's been a great relationship. And so I want to encourage you to start building those relationships. Start with one, focus on one if that's all you can focus on, and then build it up. If that is a Barnes & Noble for you, fantastic. I am not bashing Barnes & Noble, right? I'm just saying there are other options out there, and that they have their limits because they're corporate and their focus is different than the local mom and pop. And so this, there's not an either or, it's what works for you and what works in your community. So get out there, get in these bookstores, take your book if you have it. If you don't have it, how do you start building that relationship? Start talking to them. Let them know, hey, I'm writing a book. Do y'all do things for local authors? Would you be interested in helping me with my launch party? Start wearing their gear. Start talking about them. Build the relationship. It's all about the relationship, and then you'll be blessed by it. That's the blessing of it in your relationship, right? When you build a relationship, you're always blessed by it. So get into some of those bookstores and start the conversations. Start figuring out which bookstores do what. Make yourself a list. There's a very strange sound coming from outside. I don't know what it is. It sounds very squeaky. It's interesting. Okay. Sorry for that distraction. You can tell she's like, what's outside? Okay, make yourself a list, make yourself a contact list, which bookstores, who's the manager, who's in charge. I would also get an address, like a physical address, so you can follow up with thank you cards and things like that. You want to make sure that you have a good email address, and if they have a direct phone number, a direct phone number. So start making yourself a a black book, if you will, of all your local bookstores, and then as far as you start expanding out. Now, this today's topic was not necessarily about book tours, but this is how it starts, right? You start making a list of these bookstores and you start going out further and further. Because here's the thing, right? If you have 5 bookstores in your town, they're not all going to want to do a book signing with you in the same time span because obviously they work against each other, right? But you could set up one for the fall. You could do a summer book read right now. You could do one, closer to the fall. Now, a lot of bookstores don't do book signings at Christmas and stuff like that because they don't necessarily need to, and they're doing their Christmas promotions. But some of them work the opposite way, where they are wanting to bring in because they're wanting to bring in that holiday traffic, and so they will bring in authors. So just talk to them. Everybody's marketing is different, their marketing approach. So just talk to them, find out what they're doing. But this is how your book tour starts, right? You need to get those contacts and start making that list of places you can stop. And we're starting today with bookstores. So get yourself into at least one bookstore in your local area and start there. Let me know if you have questions about that. And if you're just joining me, let me know, are you in a bookstore? And if not, what bookstore would you like to get into? Okay, let's see. This is very encouraging and such a great idea. I'll need to do some looking because I was online minded. Okay. But some people truly love to shop bookstores, physical copies. So this is a great place to get my book out. Yes. That is a great point, Kim, that so many people have gone to online only. Kim, are you published through Ingram Spark too, or did you just go KDP? Let me know which way you went. Um, if you're just say both or KDP if it's KDP only. Um, it is a lot of people do shop only online. It's just easy, right? I mean, I do a lot of shopping online, but I still love going into a bookstore. I still love the smell of a bookstore. And here's the thing, most books cost the same online as they do in a bookstore, right? Um, Sometimes you'll get a better deal in person than you would online. So, um, if I want something, I shop in all different places for books. Online, if it's just a quick, I know like I'm going to order this book right this minute, but I do love to go browsing and seeing books that way. So other people do too. A lot of people, there's like this bookstore culture, right? That they just want to go hang out in a bookstore. And a lot of these indie bookstores know that, and they've created some great indie vibe places. So they are willing to partner with both. Okay, so Kim, since you're only in KDP, you have options. One is you can publish your book because you own your ISBNs. You can publish your book through Ingram Spark. And we can talk more about that on a coaching call if that's something that you want to do. You don't have to do that. I would search out bookstores to do indie book relations with and to consign books. So if you have, I know you did an order of books when you did your book launch. If you have those books on hand, still like you have let's say you have 20 of them, see if they only take, 3. I mean, think about it. When you go into a bookstore, there's 3 to 5 copies of a book on the shelf, right? So usually that's what they want. They just want to take 3 to 5 copies and put them on I think this particular bookstore took 2 of every book because I have 10 books. And so that's 20 books automatically in their inventory. So they took 2 of each books. And then as they restocked certain ones. And so, and of course, like the Bible study, they went ahead and ordered bulk because someone was doing a study. Um, so of your book, it could definitely work as a group read, a book club read. And so it depends on how they market it. And that's the thing. You need to help them understand that they can market it that way. Tell them this will make a great summer read. I'd love to just, do it on consignment if you'd be interested, that kind of thing. Ask them, would you be interested if I had a summer read poster printed, and you can print one off really easily through Office Depot or whatever, same day, have a little poster printed, summer read, put your book cover on it. Ask them. The more we support them, the better it is. Um, the bookstores that do well, they do a lot of different promotions like this, bookish stuff for their readers, and the more we can come alongside them, the better. So if you can, provide some bookmarks for their readers or whatever, and it may be stuff you already have on hand. Don't go spend a ton of money, right? But it comes out of your marketing budget, so just know what you have there for marketing budget and play with it that way. Okay, let me see what else we got here. I got Oh, okay, KDP. Seeing if we had any more questions or comments. Okay, I think that's all I got for you today. I will see you next week for Q&A. For Writing Wednesday, of course, here publicly, Writing Wednesday every Wednesday at 9:30. And then we coach privately next week inside of our Publish and Tell community for Q&A. And so I'll see you then, Kim. Let me know if you have any questions specifically about this, but start with those local bookstores, get some consignment going, and see what you can do there. It's a great way for you to potentially get author talks and just get that extra income coming in with those local books sales. Okay. All right. Until next time, see you later, guys.